I love you guys.
Dance off, bro. I have the high ground.
Expecto Patronum!
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor. Tribe of Nerds.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. Here with me, Michael, Matt, and I are going to be interviewing yet another Survivor player from Survivor UK. We're talking to the runner-up of Survivor UK 2023, that is Christopher. Welcome to the Tribe of Nerds,
Yes.
Christopher.
Oh, thank you very much. Tribe of Nerds. Are you guys nerds?
Yes. We pride ourselves.
How'd you become a nerd? I want to become a nerd.
Just love a bunch of like the nerdy franchises, Survivor, and yeah, I mean, just that's pretty much how it started.
Survivor's not nerdy. Survivor's cool. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nerds are cool too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Do you know what? In school, I wasn't an academic. I didn't really like the whole school thing, but a lot of my friends were like really nerdy, and I used to hang out with the nerds. So I think we'd all get on really well.
Yeah,
there you go.
Here's our tribe. All right. Well, to get into your Survivor UK experience, Christopher. So, when did you start watching the show, and how did you get on the show?
That's a really good question. I hadn't really heard of Survivor probably ever. I mean, I know that it was on in the UK about 25 years ago or something.
Mhm.
So in terms of that, I was sort of aware of it, but I didn't know anything about it. I was just like, oh yeah, there was this show. They were probably just like doing stuff in the wilderness. I don't know, surviving. But fast forward to it was around the new year in 2023. So last year, I actually got approached. Someone from the BBC reached out to me, and they said, you know, we're casting for this brand new, exciting TV show. And when I looked it up on the internet, it was like, this show is like quite established. I was like, this Survivor thing is really big. I was like, wow. And so the first time I really started to educate myself on the show was probably the Australian version. That's where at that time, I think Australia had Heroes versus Villains just come out. So I managed to find it on the internet, on, I think it was YouTube, and they had the episodes on there. So I started binging it, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I was like, wow, this seems like so amazing and such a challenge and out of this world. And I was just absolutely obsessed. And so that's my first real taste of how I discovered the show. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, because you got to watch King George play and get inspired possibly by George.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what it was. I just saw these people like going head to head against each other, and like this one character was just standing out. I just thought, this guy is amazing. He was just brilliant entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember his first season and like getting into it, and he just stands out right off the bat, and you're like, this guy's never gonna make it far. And then 2 games and he makes it like all the way to the end of the game both times, and it's really insane.
Well, yeah, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that he'd already done it. So this is my first kind of insight of Survivor. And I'm only looking at this based on a Google search. And then, you know, I understood that it was quite big in America, but I can't find those episodes. It's not easy to find. I don't know. I've never seen an American season or one episode. I don't know how that is.
Wow.
We'll hook you up with how to watch them. We'll get
I'm
you
sure
on
we
that.
can.
Awesome. Thanks guys.
So for someone who wasn't a big fan coming in, you were an absolute natural. So you get there on the beach and you're put on the Lenena tribe. Kind of what were those early dynamics like on Lenena Beach?
So, Michael, you say that I was a natural, but I really wasn't. I mean, when I got cast for the show, I just thought this experience was going to be a challenge, but I didn't think it was going to be as tough as it was. It's awful. The experience really isn't easy. It's not a good experience. I mean, there's good parts, there's bad parts, but it's tough. And
Yeah.
I've got to be honest with you, in the first couple of days, I didn't think I was gonna stick it out. I actually thought I was gonna walk. I was like, I can't do this. I mean, you're exhausted, you're completely and utterly drained from adrenaline, emotional, and you're starved. They're the obvious things. But then living in the wild, amongst snakes and spiders and scorpions and lizards and geckos and mosquitoes and everything like that, it was like, I can't do this. I really, really, really found it hard. And fortunately, you don't see that in the edit. It looks like I'm just like, I'm just like blending in, but actually I was just so out of my depth and I really, really, really struggled. So I think the thing that I learned early on was how to adapt.
Thank God you stuck it out because you absolutely made the season. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do you know, a lot of people say that, and it's if I'm honest, it's the biggest compliment. And I'm not just saying that. It means a lot to me. It really does. Because in terms of the early days, I was just there trying to figure out how to survive in every aspect of trying to get through this process. And when it came to kind of getting on with people, I thought I'm going to take a back seat. I'm not gonna start playing a game, or I just wanted to get on with people and form those natural friendships, and I feel like I did that early on. So in the beginning, I was just trying to breathe through it and not get too caught up in this what some would call a nightmare, because it's really not easy. And other people just took it as it came. They were like so cool about it, and I'm like, this is awful.
Speaking of the early days and friends, Ashley injures her hand, and you are one of the only people to go to bat for her, and you seem like a good ally with her. So, what was your relationship like with Ashley?
So Ashley was just really down to earth, very, very genuine, super duper fun and beautiful. I thought Ashley was one of those people who, when someone has a completely different persona where they make up a name and they say, oh, I'm a yoga instructor, but secretly they work for the police or the FBI. And I thought, nah, there's something more to this girl who claims to just be some, pretty girl who likes having her nails done and works in marketing. I was like, nah, there's something more to her. But there wasn't. That's who she was. But I just thought she just had so much more about her that she was kind of like hiding. But nope, that's who she is. And I fell in love with her. I thought she was absolutely amazing. And she was so strong and determined to do everything she could in every aspect of this game. She was so much stronger than me. And when it came to the challenges, I was there for her. I was like, Ashley, don't give up. And in all fairness, in that first challenge, she cut all of her palm open there. And it was the skin had completely come off, and she'd still held on to that barrel. And I was saying, Ashley, if you want to give up, I can take over. But she was like, no, I'm going to get through this. And I was like, do you know what? We've got this. And we really supported each other. So we had that bond early on. And then people were like, oh, Ashley's injured, let's vote her out. I was like, how does that work?
she was helping your tribe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I tried to explain that. I tried to say, guys, Ashley is in pain and she's injured because she helped us win. She could have dropped. There were other people that dropped straight away, and they just kind of get ignored. And I was like, this isn't fair. It's not right. And I totally disagreed with it.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, speaking of some things you disagreed with, so Ren ends up going to the outpost and they come back with a small fish and a story to tell. And what was your reaction to Ren coming back with the fish?
I feel like by this point I'd made some nice little friendships. So I've got a good friendship with Ashley. I'd really made a really good friendship with Rachel. So I'm like Charlie's Angels right now. I'm like sitting quite nicely. And then I got on with Doug really well. I got on with Ren really well. But the problem is that Ren had given a lot of information away quite early on. There was this thing that Ren comes from a family of super fans. Her brothers know a lot about the show. Ren knows a lot about the show. And when it comes to someone who knows the show, they're instantly standing out because they know more than people who might not have done a lot of research or people who have no idea about the show. So that was instantly a red flag. It was a target, and it was very widely spoken about. It was like, they know a lot about the show, and like they've studied it. They've made like notes and stuff. But even if you did that, just keep it quiet. So Ren's cards were pretty much exposed. And when it came to the outpost, I just felt like I felt like we'd been conned. Like, why have we got this small fish that barely feeds us? I just thought there's something not right about this. This smells fishy. And I just wouldn't let it go. I just kept going on about this fish. And when we did one of the challenges, I got to meet like Lawrence and Matt for the first time properly, and we hugged them. It was like, oh, nice to meet you guys. Because you see these people and you start getting like, an image in your head, and you get a taste or a sense of what they're about. And I was like, oh, guys, so did you guys get a fish? That's the first thing I asked. Did you guys get a fish? And they were like, oh, Lawrence was like, oh, yes, we did. We got a fish. And I was like, but how big was it? Like, are we talking this big, this big? And it was like, oh yes, it was rather a large fish. And I was like, our fish was tiny. It was so small, and it doesn't make sense. So instantly, I was like, they had a bigger fish.
Perfect Lawrence impression, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it just came out of me. I'm not sure where that came from.
Yeah. So
jolly well.
So after this is when you go to tribal council and Rachel goes home. So what went into the decision to send Rachel home at that tribal council?
Okay, I explained earlier, I was so out of my depth. I couldn't use a machete. I'm not really like gelling with the surroundings. But I started to get through it. I think the first 2 nights that I found is that, okay, I got through that. I can get through the rest. Do you know what I mean? It was like, if I can do that, I can get through this. So when it came to the votes, I felt like, right, these are going in a good direction. Sabrina stood out straight away, and I just felt like we didn't get on at all. In our conversations, in our ideas, in our thoughts, I just feel like Sabrina was too full on, too early on, and I thought like, just obvious, Sabrina's got to go. So the next vote, I thought, well, my honest opinion was, well, I get on with pretty much everyone here. I get on with Doug, I got on with Lee, I got on with the girls, Peg. So all of a sudden, well, as we're having chats, Rachel's name gets thrown out there. And I'm like, Rachel? She's my girl. Like, don't be touching Rachel, man, because, like she's young, she's really up for it. She was strong. She was just a great contender for the show. So why target Rachel early on? What's she done? And so when it came to the vote, I had to make a decision. because they were coming for Ashley and Rachel, and obviously I'm in the middle of both of them. They're both my girls. I love them, and I still do. But I had formed relationships with the guys as well, and you know, you've got Lee, you've got Doug, and I just thought, well, Pegleg is just part of that male alliance, and so I felt like if I could try and get the girls to vote for Peg, then he'd go, and then obviously I'd still have the guys and the girls. But unfortunately, Rachel just got outnumbered, and early on in the game, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if it was up to me to stand up and say no. Then I'd be then targeted and be like, oh well, actually, you know, if you don't vote with us, we'll vote against you. So I just thought, let's go with a majority, which I think I don't have a lot of regrets from the show, but I think that's probably one of them now. But now I feel like I'm an expert. You know, I feel like if I was to go back in time and have this experience, I'd be like, she ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, you could have voted out Lee and caused yourself a lot of easier life out there.
Well, Lee is a different story. The problem with Lee is that the thing that nobody really sees is that Lee and I were really, really tight. He was like one of my close friends in the show, and the game. And I think this is what people forget, is that we weren't there to make friends. It wasn't holidays in the sun. It's a game. And it's all good and well being friends afterwards, happy days. But in the game, Lee and I were tight, but I always knew what people were thinking. I'm the type of person, I've got eyes like a hawk. I'm always watching people. I'm always listening. But I don't think a lot of them were. So when it came to conversations, they were just quite happy to do their, we're going to win today in the challenges. And I'm like, yeah. But what you don't realize is that when we don't win, you're going to get voted off. And I know that because I know what people are saying. So it's all good and well about being motivational and positive. But then there's the, well, when we don't, I kind of knew where it was going. And I knew that I was always safe as long as Lee was in the game, as well as, like, I know that Doug says the same. He was always a good shield for us.
Yeah.
Smart. Well, something that may have taken you by surprise is Leilani comes to join La Nena. So how did that change the dynamics of the tribe, especially because she told you one story and then immediately told you I was lying, and then you asked her about the fish and the outpost and all of that?
Leilani coming over to our tribe was really interesting because it managed to spice up the dynamics. It was something none of us saw come in, but then it was really interesting to see what Leilani had to say. And when she was saying certain things, it was very much based around how she would paint a picture based on people's characters and their personalities. So she was very clever. I just want to say that Leilani was very switched on. This whole thing about her not having a clue, I think people can buy that. But when someone is more switched on than they actually lead on, to play dumb is a really calculated, clever way of making out that they really don't know what's going on. And I think that she's a smart girl. Like, she's so smart. And I don't know if she owned that at all. I don't know if she would actually say, yeah, I actually knew what was going on. Because when it come to votes, Leilani was always in on them. She knew who was going. She knew who was being a target or and sort of where it was going. But then she would always say, I'm going to go with my gut. That is the smartest way to just make out you don't know anything. She knew a lot. And I tell you what, if she'd admitted that in the final, she would have smashed it. But I think because she probably had felt like, you know, oh, I've gone along with this too much. She doesn't want to look like she was playing the game, and it would probably make her look bad. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
She should have just said, like, you know, I knew exactly what was going on, because she was in on a lot of votes. And because people didn't see her as such a threat, she wasn't great in challenges. She wasn't very much liked in social circles. People just didn't take to her, but they didn't want to vote her out because they wanted her as a number. She was a very easy number. She was just someone you could say, look, we're going to vote out so-and-so tonight. And she would be like, okay, let's just not talk about it. So when it come to conversations, she would then say, oh, I'm going to go in my gut. And she was smart about that. And so I sussed that out straight away, though. I was like, this girl knows exactly what's going on. She knows what she's doing. This whole gut nonsense is like, come on, like, love, we're having rice and beans. Your gut is starving. Don't give me that nonsense. Come on. So I saw through all the BS. I saw through everything. I saw through everything that girl had to say and do. And I just thought, like, if other people can see it too, which I don't think they did. They just thought like she was this average girl who just wasn't very good. But it just turns out that she was actually very good, and look where she got.
Yeah.
And so I always wanted to vote her out. I always wanted. I didn't trust her. I didn't. We didn't particularly gel. She didn't like my game. I didn't like hers. And with the fish thing, I wouldn't, like I said, I kept going on about the fish. I kept saying, Ren went to the outpost, she came back with this tiny fish. And then when Leilani told me that, oh, Ren has come back with this massive fish, I was like, there we go. And then Leilani was then, she's probably got an idol. That was enough to cement enough with the group as another shield. So if you can imagine, Lee is a shield, now Ren is a shield. So there's all these people in front of me that I can pull out ammo to say, Ren has got an idol, everybody's not taken to Lee. So I thought, yeah, this is going well, and we can use this. And it's from my doing, from my kind of I just can't keep my nose out of things. I always have to know what's going on and like ask questions, and that was it. So as soon as I found out that, I used it. But I didn't want Ren to be voted off when she did.
Well, that's interesting. So we get to that vote and we get to the swap where Matthew and Tanuke get swapped to Lenena, and you end up taking Ren out at this vote. So walk us through more of what happened there, since you didn't want Ren to go.
I didn't want to go. I felt like it wasn't right. If you look at the Lenena tribe, we had such strong numbers and strong contenders. We were great allies, and we were getting on. I just frozen. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're still there.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. Did it cut off then?
Yeah, you cut off a little bit.
A little bit, but you're good.
Okay. Well, what I was saying was I want Ren to go because it didn't make sense. I just felt like if Leilani's come over to Lenena and then you've got Matthew and Tanuke, look, to me, it just made sense to stay Lenena strong and pop off the Calatons. Simple. But if I was to reiterate that, and if I was to say that to the other guys, they were so at each other. So if you can imagine, you've got Lee and Hannah and Peg were really tight as a three. And then you've got like them coming for Ashley, and Ashley is obviously my number one. So even though I got on with Lee, and that was about it, but like I just feel like what has Ashley done? I still don't get it. You know, why don't we work together and move forward as a group? Rather than come for each other. And you know what? I think I got blamed for all of this. I'm the one who was the demise of Lenena. It was like I put the cracks in the foundations and stuff. So what it is Lee would not leave Ashley alone. Ashley was trying to defend herself, and then there was talk that Ren wanted to vote Lee out, and Lee got wind of that. So instead of Ashley being the target, Ashley sort of moved it to Ren and said, well, let's get Ren out. Ren may have an idol. It moves the target off Ashley, and also Ren wanted Lee out. So there was this whole thing between us where I was like, but guys, why don't we just vote off a Calaton person? It doesn't make sense. So when I knew that nobody was listening, I just thought, right, Ren, fine, just vote her out, whatever, gone. But then that's when I had to take matters into my own hands then, because obviously Doug and Peg had gone into the other tribe. And then I was like, I can't lose Doug. I cannot lose Doug. I can't do this. And we all know what happened then.
Yeah, a very
Yeah.
entertaining episode.
Yeah, that leads perfectly into my next question. So you decide to keep Doug and Pegleg safe by throwing the challenge. Ashley suggests that you do this subtly, and you went a different route with that, and cartwheeled your way through the challenge. So talk about that amazing episode.
Michael, I tried my hardest to say to the guys, look, we need to get one of the Calaton people out. It was as simple as that. This was the perfect time to keep Lenena as we are and just get one of them out. It just made sense. To the game, it just made perfect sense. But no one would listen. Nobody was listening to me. And I just feel like, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to go rogue. I'm just going to do my own thing, because I knew that I got on with Lee, I got on with Ashley, I got on with the Lenenians. I can't say it. But if we just lost, I knew if we went to a tribal, we would stick together. And then by that point, we would pop off. And to be honest, by this point, my idea would be to vote off either Matthew or Tanuki, because they were both very likable people, very strong in challenges, and they were pretty well-rounded. So I just thought it makes sense. Get them out. Lilani, we can deal with her later. But then when it got to the just before the challenge, I said to Ashley, look, we need to lose this. Now is our chance. And she was like, right, well, let's be subtle. And look, I get paid to perform. I'm a singer. And when I'm on stage, I guess there's this character that comes out, and it's not that I'm not being myself. It's just that this is something I'm going to have fun with. And that's the person I am. I just, I thought I'm going to have so much fun with this. But also I thought it was going to be easy. I thought I'm just going to throw the boxes, I'm going to roll around in the sand. And it was really hard, because then we actually weren't losing. It was like, oh my God, I am running around this beach, throwing these boxes. I'm literally putting my goggles on. I even said I can't spell at one point. I was like, I can't spell. Like, don't ask me. And then and I thought, like, okay, because there was so much more that I was doing that never even got showed. I was really taking the piss, honestly. I was just making it a mockery, and like I was taking the piss out of myself. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, like, all I've got to do is lose this. And then I threw in a random cartwheel just to have fun, to say, like, wouldn't it be funny to watch it back and be like, ha, I did that. But we won. We ended up winning.
Yeah. Well, Survivor is a game, but it's also an entertainment show, and you made it very entertaining to watch. So that's also a part of it.
Thank you, Michael. You put an entertainer in that show. I mean, like, I guess I say it in my introduction video. Look, I'm a performer. I can switch it on. I can switch it off. That's who I am. And I think there's a lot of people who aren't performers but still perform.
Yeah.
So you tried to throw the challenge, but you end up winning. But then you tell Lee and the rest of your alliance about you throwing the challenge, and then Lee gets in a heated argument with you. Were you taken aback by how heated it got, and maybe how personal it got?
Absolutely. Do you know what? That was the beginning of the end for me.
Yeah.
Because when I came out with it, I said, because Ashley knew. And what didn't come across on TV is that Ashley had told Hannah. So Hannah knew everything. So Hannah knew exactly what was going on, but Hannah didn't agree with it. And this is my point. People just didn't want to join in. They were like, no, let's not do that. And I'm like, guys, we're here to A, play the game, B, be strategic, and C, like, make these moves. And no one was in on it. No one would do it. And I thought, right, okay, fine. Okay, it didn't work. I'll admit that. I'll hold my hands up. And I did feel really bad about it, because I just thought it was going to be so much easier than what it was. But when it didn't work, for Lee to sort of come up to me and then say, "You're an idiot, you're so stupid, like I would have done it better, blah blah blah." And I'm like, yeah, but dude, like there's no need of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, calm down and
Mhm.
like don't be disrespectful. Like if you don't agree with it, fine, vote me out, but don't cuss me and like talk to me like I'm, less than you.
Mhm.
And also there was something that happened on the beach where our fire went out and it never got shown. But when our fire went out, we all had an idea of maybe trying to ignite it and just, because that Peg had taken our flint and it was all very confusing. But Lee got really angry and like, when you're really hungry and you're hungry, and he just got super like all up in my face and he was like, just like, "Rah." And I was like, do you know what? I know that Lee wants to keep the guys and the males all tight. And he will always deny that he wanted an all male alliance. There was this whole thing of, I didn't want an all male alliance. I didn't say that. And it's like, okay, even though he did, I think however millions of people watch the show, we can all see what was said.
Yeah.
And there were things said off camera as well. And he totally wanted the four boys to stay tight. And I didn't agree with it. And so I knew that the girls knew that, everyone knew that. So they were all starting to plan the time to vote Lee out. So
Mhm.
I couldn't vote for Lee. I couldn't vote for Lee. I thought I can't do it because I formed a relationship with this guy. I valued him as a good friend. We got on really well. But I just thought now is the time. And I stepped out of it. I stepped back. I was like, you guys vote him out. I'm not gonna vote for him. I'll place my vote on someone else. And because I think it was Hannah. Hannah knew that I knew that Lee was going to get voted out. So we went and told him. And it was more Ashley trying to defend herself, saying, like, look, we need to get Lee out.
Mhm.
So Lee comes up to me and goes, I've heard you're going to vote me out. And I was like, no. And then he's like, and he's like, I've heard that you and like that everyone's going to vote me out. And I was just like, oh, who told you that? I'm not going to vote you out. I think some of the others might, but I'm not. And then he turned on me. He was like swearing at me. He was like, "You're," and like he just went. Do you know what? He went really nasty, and I thought, do you know what? Boom, gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the best way to deal with people being nasty is just you can vote them off and get them out of there.
Exactly. I mean, if he had done it in a more tactical way at the
Mhm.
tribal council, he should have said, "Look, Chris has tried to throw the challenge to vote you or Matthew out. Work with me tonight, vote him out."
Mhm.
And he could have turned everyone because what he would have said is actually true. And then I would have been like, oh my God. And he really could have turned people on us. But I think he just got so emotional and so angry. And he called me like curly haired Chris and airhead Barbie. And then he just started like picking names that we all kind of looked at him and was like, let's like he dug his own grave and he really could have worked his magic to be a lot more strategic and tactical to turn it around. And then
Mhm.
I'd say unfortunately, I'd say he didn't. So I
Yeah. Well, when you get to that episode, Lee's Boot episode, you do have the auction as soon as you merge, and it does end up going well for you
oh my God.
because you get an idol clue that gets you to find the idol, and you get an extra vote. So, walk us through how that day went for you and how excited you were to find these advantages.
Well, firstly, to get to merge was like unreal because obviously I'd watched the Australian version and I'd seen that the merge is basically where you're in it till the end,
Mhm.
regardless to if you get voted out. So I
Right.
thought like I've done so well. I've done so well to get to this point. Bear in mind, I felt like I still had great relationships. I still had uh Doug on the other side. He's now in the back together. I like Peg for some reason Peg just hated me. And I felt like I just sat really well in the tribe. But from Lee getting voted off, that's when he did throw me under the bus and say, well, look, Chris has tried to throw the challenge. And then that turned everyone's attention to me. And Ashley was already a target from day one. So me and Ashley, we were just like, it's really interesting because when we watched it back, I just thought me and Ashley just got on really well. But obviously then watching it back, you've got people saying, oh, you've got this power couple and Barbie and Ken and like these wannabe CEOs of the tribe. And I just thought like I was shocked. I was like, I was like calling Ashley afterwards and saying like, Ash, have you seen what they said about us? Like we were just friends. And like we didn't realize we were so targeted in that way. I just didn't realize it. So the lesson I've learned is if anyone plays, whether you guys in America or Michael, just keep away from your friends, because as soon as people just don't come close to them, because as soon as people see you, even if you're talking about shooting stars, did you see that shooting star last night? They're like, look how tight they are, look at them, who do they think they are? And it's like we were just friends. But I was very flattered that people saw us so threatening. And by this point, Ashley was very clued up. She knew what she was doing, whereas I'm now starting to get grips of my game. This is where my game is really starting to like up the rankings. Do you know what I mean? And like I say, before Lee getting voted off, I'd sat comfortably. I thought, I'm going to win this. I get on with everyone. Like, this is easy. But then obviously Lee screws it up for me. And now I'm having to really defend myself and survive. So the auction saved my life. It did.
Yeah, Lee blows your game up completely, and then he even talks from the jury bench, influencing the game further, which is completely against the rules.
Disrespectful,
Just ridiculous. I would have been so pissed for you, Chris.
Honestly, you're starved, you're hungry, you're tired, and then you've got this guy giving it that from the bench. I just wanted to walk up and walk off, say, oh, screw this, like, you know, like, either the rules are sit down and shut your mouth, or do you know what I mean? Because and do you know what? It was like that quite frequently. There were always jibes that were, and I was just like, what? So I think we all were, to be fair, but I bid on that shampoo, and I just knew, like, the thing for me in this game, there was a lot of intuition, and I just had a sense of why aren't they talking to me? Like, why aren't they, like, even with Doug was really shady with me. And I was like, but why? Because I love Doug, and I'm actually trying to help Doug in a lot of scenarios. I tried to throw the challenge primarily for Doug. And obviously to get rid of Tanuke or Matt. And it was my thing for such a long time in the game. Just get them out, or one of them will win. I knew it. I'm telling you now, I knew that if Tanuke gets to the final, she'll win. If Matt gets to the final, he'll win. But I knew that I had to get Tanuke out for Matt to win. And I told him that. I said, if you want to win this game, listen to me. Who won? So I won the shampoo and conditioner, and like I just had the clue, man, and I just snuck it in my back pocket. Nobody saw it, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I guess for me at that point, I didn't think I would need to use it as soon as I did.
Yeah.
Well, perfect timing, because I was going to ask you, in episode 10, you play your idol, but then you lose your closest ally. So what was it like to lose Ashley at this point, and then also your idol?
Well, Matt, at this point, I am gutted. I'm absolutely gutted, because I felt like I'd had a really smooth beginning in the game. I felt like I built relationships. I felt like I was doing pretty well. I was almost like under the radar. And then, like, by this point, don't forget, I won an advantage as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I've got an idol, I've got an advantage, and I feel like I'm doing all right. Bear in mind, going back to the intuition and the intuitive thing, I knew there was something in that shampoo and conditioner. I just knew it. So there were certain things that I was bidding on in the auction that I didn't really want, but I was upping the cost. So I was making people like spend their money.
Mhm.
And so when I knew that they were coming for me and Ashley, I was like, oh damn, this isn't good. So I ended up thinking, well, look, I've got the idol, but I didn't want to play it. I genuinely didn't want to play it. And you know, at the tribe, we were on Lenena Beach, but we were then called Calaton.
Mhm.
Caleneton, something like that. So I just felt like when I was going up to people and saying, hey, who are you thinking about voting out? There was this kind of consensus that people were saying the same thing, like, oh, I'm not sure yet. And I was like, that doesn't make sense, because every time you ask someone who are you voting for, they generally have an idea, they
Mhm.
know who they want out, and they'll tell you. By my experience now, I'm like, I've been here a couple of weeks now, and I kind of know that that's not how we've been working. So I thought, no one's telling me, so it's got to be me. So I figured that,
Mhm.
and I just thought, well, if it's not me, it's Ashley. So I was really stuck, and I thought, play the game. So I have to play it for myself, and knowing the game now, mind, I've only ever really like was out of my depth, out of my experience. But whereas now I look back and think I should have given Ashley a fake idol, made out that two, spin everyone out, not tell them who's got like what, and um, really play with it. But I have to say something that's very important. With the tribe, when it became a merge, for some reason, nobody would pull out of the actual alliance or numbers. So if I think there was 9 at merge, and no one would pull out of it. So if I say to Lawrence, hey man, like, would you be willing to do something? No. And I'd be like, okay, you can't all be one happy tribe though. It doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Like there's gotta be a pocket, a crack. But it just seemed like everyone was willing to work on getting like whoever. I think Tanuki would say someone and everyone would agree with it. And I just thought it's gonna be a really shit game, a really boring show, and really predictable because nobody's actively playing it. And that's how I felt. I
Mhm.
just felt like, well, if you're all just going to go along with whatever someone says, once I'm gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, bam, final 3, Tanuki win. And I tried to explain that to people. I honestly, I kept saying, like, we need to get her out.
Mhm.
But someone like Doug, I would sit down with him and I'd say, Doug, like, we need to work together. But then you'd have Hannah and Peg saying, now he wants to be Lenena strong. And I'd be like, I've always wanted to be Lenena strong. I've always wanted to be Lenena strong. Where are you? Like, just because I voted Lee out, he deserved it. But like, it doesn't make sense. Like, let's just move forward and vote these lot out because they're coming for us. And I kept
Mhm.
saying, they are coming for us. They are coming for us. But they wouldn't listen. Nah,
Yeah.
we're all friends. And they wouldn't listen.
It's great.
Love the impressions. I love the impressions.
Well, so because they didn't listen, so Lenana continues to implode, and at the next vote, it's the Doug blind side, and you end up burning your extra vote on Leilani. So walk us through that, just how frustrating it was to fall on deaf ears more, and then just like what went on.
this was wild because I sat around the fireplace and I said to Hannah Pegleg and Doug, I said, look, we can spin them out, make out that. Oh, before I say this, I knew they were coming for Doug because what happened was they were all obviously trying to vote me out. I played the idol, Ashley went, and then the next vote, instead of them coming for me, they knew that I had no alliance. They knew that I didn't stand a chance. They were wrong. Someone had said, you know, basically I heard the word Doug. So I held on to that. I really held on to that. And I ended up saying to Doug, look, Doug, I know everybody's wanting to vote me out. I get that, but they're going to vote you out tonight. And he was like, nah, mate, they're not. And I was like, Dougie, they are. So he wouldn't listen to me. And can you see where I'm going? No one would listen to me about Ren. No one would listen to me about the throwing, like losing the challenge to vote out Tanuki or Matt. So by this point, I'm like, I'm smashing this game, but no one's with me. So strange. Bear in mind that I would have done anything for Doug. So I was always very honest with Doug. I always said, I'll never write your name down. I'm with you till the end. I told him they were going to vote him out. I said, I've got this advantage. He claims to not remember this. And he says that Chris didn't say it because I listened to his podcast today. And I was like, Doug, you've either got a very bad memory. Doug, if you're watching this, you knew I had that extra vote. Do you think I'm going to sit there on a beach and just hold my advantages, knowing everyone wants me out? I need you to work with me. I'm going to tell you, I've got so much to offer. I know they want me out. I've got the extra vote. Let's find and make a fake idol. Let's spin them out. Let's do this. Me, Hannah, Pegleg, Doug, and my extra vote. That's 5 numbers, 5 votes. And pretend we've got an idol. We can then say that maybe Doug's got it. They won't vote for Doug. They'll split the vote. Then we can put all our 5 votes on someone of their tribe. Wouldn't listen to me. And then we go to the tribal council. I look like an absolute idiot because then Doug goes up to everyone and says, just to let you know, guys, Chris is going to fake an idol. And I come back doing my best acting, like, oh my God, don't tell anyone, guys. I've just found an idol. And then they're all laughing at me. They're all laughing at me. And I watched that. I felt hurt by that. I was like, do you know what? That's mean. That's actually mean. Like, I'm playing the game how it's supposed to be played. And you lot are laughing at me. And do you know what? Doug, bye.
So we move from one vote, that's a huge move, into possibly the biggest move of the season, where you plant seeds with Matthew and Lawrence to take out Tanuki, who is completely running the game, as you said. Can you talk us through that huge move on Tanuki?
Well, by this point, I've got to give Matt all the credit. All right. He told me it was Doug that was getting voted off. So by this point, I trusted Matt, and he's an absolute sweetheart. And I just knew that people were never going to vote for me to win. I knew it. And I was told that. People had said it to my face. If she gets to the final, I'm going to vote for her. If he gets to the final, I'm going to vote for him. And I was like, guys, what have I done? Like, people say to me, if I played in Australia or if I played in another country, I would have won hands down. But for some reason, these British people just didn't appreciate my game. So I'll always be remembered as the guy who should have won. But we'll see. Anyway, so Matty and I form this really great bond, and I trust him because I haven't got an alliance. But also, I'm at the point now where I kind of have, I've adapted. I've really taken on the experience to dodge votes. And when you're at a tribal council, the first time your name gets called up, it's the worst. Your heart's beating, your anxiety's kicking off. It's the worst feeling. So as the game was going on, I was then getting like Chris. So then by the second tribal, by the third tribal, where I knew I was a target,
Mhm.
the anxiety goes. It turns from fear and like, being not sure that you're going to be voted out to owning it, and you're like, right, bring it on. So by this point, I'm like expecting it, and I just kept winning. So I'm then like getting really close with Matt, and the one reward that I ended up winning with Matt, as fate would have it, we were paired up together. We got really close together. We won together, and it was the pizza reward. We had all of this pizza, and I sat the boys down. We picked Lawrence because he wanted to pick Tanuki or Nathan, and I was like, absolutely not. Oh my God. God, no, 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 no. So when he said Lawrence, I went, yeah, yeah, okay, cool. So for me, this was brilliant because I had them boys. And I didn't make a song and dance about it. I just said it very casually. I was like, guys, I know everyone wants me out, but where do you want to go in this game? Be honest. Do you want to win? Lawrence was very much like, oh, well, I don't think he was quite nonchalant about it. I don't think winning for him was that much of a thing, whereas for Matthew it was. So I used that. I was, Matt, if you want to win this, I'm telling you now, you've got to do something about it to win. Not only for your game to win, but for the jury. They're going to want to see you making a move. And behind his back, I'd then gone and spoken to Hannah and Pegleg, and obviously because Doug had gone, they all believed me. They were like, oh, Chris is actually like very good at this game. So we now need Chris, even though they still carried on voting me out. So I don't know what these people are thinking, but I think they took things very personal. I just think they just wanted me out, regardless to whether they won or like got to the final or not. Do you know what I mean? I just think they were so focused on me being voted off that it was their game was completely blinded by me. So, and again, I used this. I thought, well, I'm target number one. People can't see other avenues. They can't see what is actually potential for their game, whereas Matt could. And so I'd spoken to Pegleg and Hannah, and I basically said, look, I'm going to have a word with Matt to try and see if he can vote off Tanuki because we need to get her gone. And we agreed that we wouldn't talk together. I would do it on my own and they would do it separately. So it looked like it was coming from different sources rather than us all ganging up on him. And it worked. It totally worked.
Yeah. Well, and then you have how frustrating was it? Because Lawrence then almost blew it up because he went and told Tanuki that her name was out there.
Yeah.
That's the, like, there were certain players would have a idea of who would be voted off, and instead of just keeping it quiet and going with it, because they'd agreed to do it, they'd agreed that was vote, but then they're telling the people, and they're not benefiting from it. What it does is it just kind of like I can't see where that could have gone for Lawrence's game. I don't know why he was happening. And he knew it. So okay, he could have just like put his foot on us, fine. And Tanuki's gone, but he told her. But I think I don't know why he told her. So that's what gave a lot more credit is because he stuck with it. Whereas Lawrence had just stuck with it, then I think the both of them would still have a lot of credibility. Whereas Lawrence lost. It was all a bit patient, and at that point, I kind of felt like I'm going to win this because right now everything is going my way, and when Tanuki voted off, I couldn't control my fate. I know it's bad, but I'm literally like, she wants me out, and she was quite like a lot of them were quite very like cutthroat about it. We want Chris out, whereas I had to defend myself. So when I got this in the bag, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I couldn't hide it. So everyone's like, oh my God, Chris is so evil. And I was like, I know.
Well, speaking of everything going your way, in episode 13, you find the key to the lobster trap. So my question is,
Uh,
on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think Matthew did with the lobster trap?
a -10. It was awful. Like, there's a definite minus. Like, Matty, if you're watching this, I'm not being funny, but what? Like, all you had to do was lock that trap. Like, I don't actually, he didn't even have to lock it. The deal was, I found that key and I said to him, Matt, look, like I found it. And then we'd agreed that he would go and get the idol or the clue, whatever it was, because we didn't know. It was a bag in this lobster
Mhm.
trap. And so I felt like, yeah, I trust him. We've got a good thing going on, and it'll probably boost his game to go and actually do something. Because right now I feel like, you know, other than the Turuke vote, nothing had really happened for Matt. So now he's working with me. We own the beach. I'm not being
Mhm.
funny, but we felt it as well. We were like, we can do this, and I knew it. I knew we were onto something because everyone really liked him, and I knew that Lilani was like really close to him. So, and I knew everyone really didn't like me. So I was like, this is brilliant because we're working together and we're a force to be reckoned with. So the agreement was to go to the lobster trap and just get us in there and give it to me. I went to the tribe, I was chatting any old nonsense about like, whatever to distract them. And he comes back and hasn't got the goods. And I'm like, oh man, this is stressing me out, man. Like I should have just gone there, grabbed it myself, and I'm a target anyway. So what does it matter? Um, and he never locked it. And so when we did the challenge, there was always an agreement that we were gonna. Well, actually, I think I would have gone. I think I would have. I can't remember. I don't actually know if I would have gone or not. Maybe I wouldn't have because I think Nathan had said that he wanted to get revenge on Matt and maybe Lawrence. So I think his focus was more towards them. So I don't know. I think I was feeling quite safe. Um, and what happened was uh, Nathan stumbles across this lobster trap and then finds the idol and then gets it and then tells people for what reason I have no clue. Then Hannah tells me that Lawrence has got this idol. I don't believe her because I
Yeah.
was just like, nah, I've got the idol. Don't worry, a little self love. I've got it. But I didn't have it in my possession because
Yeah.
Matt had left it open. So when I speak to Lawrence, he's like, yeah, he's got the idol. I was like, how do you know? And they're like, yeah, he showed us. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, this can't be happening. And I kind of knew that. And I was like, something's not right. So I speak to Matt and I'm like, Matt, everyone's saying that Nathan's got an idol. And then we march over to that lobster trap, look down. I'm gonna die now. I just feel like I'm having flashbacks. I can't, Matt. I cannot get over it. I cannot get over it. This is like
No.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. It was the worst thing. It was the worst thing ever. Not seeing that idol there. I can see it in my head as clear as day. I was fuming. I looked at Matt and I was like, "This is sabotage. You are not on my side. You've done this on purpose. How dare you?" And I believed it. I thought, like, you can't be that incompetent. But no, it was a genuine, it was sabotage. He just didn't know it. I was like, okay, could be friends again.
Yeah.
But how about this for a crazy idea? Get a stone, take the idol, wrap
Yeah.
the stone up, and put it back in. Like, at least take the idol.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no clue where Matt was coming from. I don't know why he thought it. I don't know what I can't remember what I was saying, but I think it was more along the lines of Matty and losing the lobster, the idol, and then Nathan claimed it. But instead of being really suave about it or sneaky or just clever, he could have just completely hid it, not told a soul, and played it. But he didn't, and everyone was so annoyed at him because he was so smug about it, and he just like he was really cocky and like the way he acted. I think people just sort of said like, yeah, he deserves to be voted out now, and And yeah, he ruined his game. He probably could have won it. Like, well, actually not. He wasn't great in challenges, if I'm fair.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, so how did you manage to get any of that blowback onto Lawrence away from Matthew? Because like it was interesting that Matthew makes this giant mistake and Lawrence takes the fall for it.
Yeah. What happened was I knew that Lawrence and Matty were like really close because
Hmm.
obviously they came from Carleton and they just got on really well. But whereas I needed Matty to get through my game, I needed Matt. So I was using Matt as much as he was using me. We well, that's what you call a good alliance.
Hmm.
And so um, I knew that Lawrence was no, I knew that Matty was being had been mentioned for voting out Tanuki, and there was this whole thing of Nathan getting revenge on him. So I kept saying to Matt, I said, Matty, they're going to vote for you next.
Hmm.
And honestly, when you get that sense of people are coming for you, you will do anything to get your name out of that. And so straight away it was Lawrence, and Matt didn't batter an eyelid. And it was almost like the survivor gods, which is everything was happening in my favor. I needed Lawrence gone. And
Hmm.
and I didn't even have to twist that up. So for me, this was like perfect. Couldn't believe it. And in a game of Survivor, I think you only really know what it feels like to play the game if you are being targeted. Otherwise, it's all good and well being liked and sort of sailing through, but you don't know what the game is unless you've got people coming for you. You don't know what that feels like. It's a
Hmm.
totally different experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So at this point, you win yet another award, and you go to the spa with Peg Leg and with Hannah. What went into the decision to take them with you, and how did that change your game?
By this point, I knew that I had Matt on my side, obviously. Matt had Lilani, who she had openly said that she's never going to vote Matt out. So, I mean, it was almost like Hannah and Peg needed me. So I've got Matt and I've got these other two people. Otherwise, obviously, I could flip on them, and you've
Hmm.
got Matt and Lilani and me voting them off. But whereas I thought, actually, I'm going to bring them on board with me. Because don't forget, I was by this point, I kept winning the rewards, I kept winning the challenges, so I'm on a winning streak now. And I thought, well, if I bring them on board, maybe we can. It's like a form of damage control. We can just try and talk about how we can move forward in the game. I just felt like they still had it in for me, and again, they wouldn't let it go. So there was a part of me that thought, if I was to be a decider who gets to the final, it would have been Hannah. But because Peg had made a few threats to me saying, if Hannah gets to the final, she's getting my vote. You're
Hmm.
never going to get my vote. And I thought, do you know what? Just because of that, Peg, if I get to a position where I'm making decisions, Hannah's never going to get there. Then just for that, don't threaten me, young man. Well,
Well, then that goes into my next question because Nathan goes and then Pegleg. So, what made you want to get rid of Nathan and then Pegleg?
by this point, it was based on who we wanted to be surrounded by in the final. And Peg Leg had got so far in the game that I just felt like he had quite a good story. And I thought with people like Lee, who, just wouldn't shut up um, about hating me and loving people like Peg and things like that, I could see where it would go. I could see that Peg potentially could win this because he won a couple of challenges and he's got one leg.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day, I just thought He ain't going. He's got to go. And to be honest with you, I just think had his social game been much better than it was, because he wasn't very like he just he didn't play his social game very well. I think if he'd won over a few more relationships, or at least pretended that he was friendly with people, he could have done really well. But his social game just was crap. So to get top five, he did well. So I thought, nah. He always said he wants to get top five because it would break a record in the survivor world of an amputee getting that far or something. And I used that against him. Yeah, so I used that against him, and I always remembered that. He kept barking on about, I want to get top five. And do you know what? As soon as he got top five, I sort of said to people, well, he did say he wants to get top five, so I think it's only fair that he goes now.
Yeah, it's actually
that's brutal.
It is actually like a cool fact. I believe he is the highest placing amputee on the show. I believe there's been 3 others before him. So
good for him.
Yeah.
I think Peg is still. I wouldn't be surprised if Peg is somewhere still trying to vote out. I wonder if he's in the post office trying. I want Chris out. It's like, Peg, the game is finished now. You can calm down.
So
let it go.
So we get to the finale now, and we get to the final immunity challenge, and this is where it comes down to you or Leilani winning this, like, split second separating you two winning that challenge. So walk us through that.
You know what? I think I really surprised myself. It got to a point in that time where I just couldn't believe it. I honestly, if you think from the beginning where I was so out of my comfort zone and not able to kind of get through this by spiders and living on bamboo and eating rice and beans, to get into the final, have dodged all of those tribal councils, winning, and then coming out on top. I'm not kidding you. Do you know, I still to this day can't believe I did it. I still go to bed at night and I'm looking around my bedroom and I'm like, did I do that? Like, it's surreal. It hasn't sunken in. I still can't believe it. And a lot of the production afterwards were like, we didn't think he was going to last that long, because what it was, they have to film a tribal council. They have to obviously do the last tribe challenge and then go to tribal council. They didn't think it was going to last that long. So in the end, they had to hurry it up. So they were like, you're going to have to get on one leg now, because it'd gone into like 5 and 15 minutes or something, hours. And so throughout that time, I just kept thinking to myself, I've had to get to this point. It's not been a smooth journey for me. Whereas other people may have felt safe. They've not really stood out. They've not got many votes. They've not been a target. Whereas this game, I've had to get to this point. I am not giving it out. The pain was excruciating. By this point, mentally, I'm like done. But there were 2 things, or there were a few things that kept me going. One is that Leilani, like Hannah had lifted her hand or something, and then Matt drops, and Leilani kept saying, when I worked in a shop, I used to be on my feet for 8 hours a day, and it really hurt my back, but I could do it for 8 hours. And I was like, you stood on your feet for 8 hours a day? Like, what? She was trying to psych me out and be like, I can do this for 8 hours or something. So I thought, okay, she can do this for 8 hours. And then I thought in my head, many years ago, I used to be in a boy band, and we used to rehearse for 12 hours. And I thought, those 12-hour rehearsals, you'd be in agony. Your feet would be blistered. Your back would be done. And it's the most exhausting, painful experience. And I thought, well, she's worked on a shop for 8 hours. I've done rehearsals for 12 hours, and it's not easy. So I channeled that energy, and I thought, like, she's trying to psych me out, but what she doesn't realize, it was egging me on. And so I kept saying, see, Joel, the presenter, kept saying, "Oh, how are you feeling, Chris?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm exhausted. I think I'm going to drop any minute." But I wasn't. I was then doing back to her what she was doing to me. She claimed she could do 8 hours. I was making out I was going to drop every 5 minutes. But in my head, I had a 12-hour platform. You know what I mean? So mentally, I then channeled like because there was a reward. No, it wasn't a reward. It was the thing where we had these coins where we got to speak to our loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I opted for the 1 minute video call, but the others, they wanted me to have the minute just to be nasty. But like, I didn't care because I'm a grown man and I travel a lot, and like, I was like, there's no need to be like bitter about it. But anyway, when I spoke to my mum, all I needed is that minute. And so when you're doing that final challenge, you're obviously thinking about that. I was thinking about that one call, and it does mentally, it does a lot to you. You know, you think about family, you think about certain things. And so honestly, I was just about to fall. I was falling backwards, and lo and behold, the survivor gods had pushed Lilani over, and she'd lost. I won it by a millisecond. I won it by like a millisecond. I won.
Yeah, it was crazy to watch it. And then the Hannah vote happens, and so you said that Pegleg threatening you was like a big reason why you voted Hannah out. So I mean, was there any more to it, or like how were you able to get Leilani and Matt just to agree to vote Hannah?
So I'm gonna keep this real, right? I've earned my place into the final. I'm like a true survivor now. I've dodged so many votes. They call me Hat with 9 lives. Nah, I played the game, and there's a difference, right? So I got there, and I got there on my own merit, and I'm very proud of that. So getting to the final, I'm obviously in it. So to make that decision, it was, I just felt like I could win this, you know? And even though I knew people had really disliked me, maybe disliked me as a person, took things very personal, didn't like my game, there was a lot of dislike towards me. I'm actually very fun, so I'm not being funny, but there's nothing to not like about me. I'm obviously saying that tongue in cheek, but do you know what I mean? Like, I played the game. Like, it's not like I actually hurt anyone, or maybe they are hurt. I don't know. Like, so whatever. So I felt like I could win this. I could win this. Like, look what I've done. So there was a part of me that thought, well, maybe Leilani, because she didn't play a great game, and like maybe Leilani, and I was never not gonna vote for Matt to get the final. Like, it was an agreement. We had an agreement, and I was sticking to that. The thing about me is that what people don't understand is I was actually more loyal than people think. If I was to not vote for someone, I would actually not do it. I would never vote for Doug. I would never vote for Matt. I would never vote for Ashley. The only reason I voted Lee out was because the way he acted. And, you know, if you act a certain way, you deserve it. So at the end of the day, I was never ever going to I was never going to vote Matt out. So when it came to that decision, I just thought, well, based on my relationship with Hannah, she's just not got over the fact that everyone seems to have it in for me. But for her to sort of think for herself and have her own opinion, she could have then maybe worked her own game or had a different alliance. But she just stuck with whatever the consensus was. She stuck with it, and I didn't agree with that. I thought, nah, she doesn't like she could have won it, to be honest. But it would have been a little disappointing in terms of getting to the final just based on like you winning it because she's got a bunch of thumbs in the jury where like the game hasn't been played, if you know what I mean.
Right.
By certain people, in my opinion. Like, I could listen, I could easily apply for one of these shows, go along for the ride, sit back, get friendly with everyone, enjoy it, and say, hey, I'll never vote for you. While, you know, doing what everyone else is wanting me to do, I'll just be a number for people, and then I'll sail to the final and win. But like, I don't think I'd regret that if I was to do that. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think the game for me is like, I don't have any regrets. Do you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is there can be winners that actually go along to the end, having done not a lot and win. So
Right.
so that's why I thought, well, like I just thought Lilani was the me and Matt just said Lilani. So and then I knew that Matt would win. So that was that.
So that kind of slightly covers my next question. So you head into Final Tribal Council. So how did you feel going in? Were your odds of getting the title?
There was always a part of me that thought, like, Christopher, you have played a bloody good game. And if people recognize that, then surely they're gonna honor it. But in terms of me knowing that people they weren't fans of me. I mean, in a game of Survivor, you need people. You kind of need to have this weird, like, sense of actually. I guess now that the UK have experienced it, people understand the game. Whereas I think before there was this mentality that people were there just to have a nice time and get on. Whereas that's not what it's about. And I think me watching Australian Survivor and getting those George kind of references and that kind of persona and gameplay, that, like, I'm not comparing myself to George, but when you look at someone who plays the game like that, then I think you have choices. And I think that's the divide. I think when you do stand out and make moves and you are a big character, I think that's where you lose the likability. So there's this fine line of being liked and playing a game, and you have to know when to fine tune that. And I think Hayley does that really well. She's very likable, but she plays the game so under the radar. That girl, that is such a stealth player.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I think also it's a really interesting thing that I don't know if people from the rest of the world understand. The UK is very odd when it comes to these kinds of shows. Australia and the US have these strategy games. In the UK, there's a real disdain for them. And even in games like Big Brother, our Big Brother is so different to the rest of the world. And in Big Brother, the worst thing you can be seen as is someone playing the game. Like, the public hates you for it. And I just don't understand that disconnect. It's very bizarre to me.
It's so true. Like, it's so true. Like, when you go to a shop, people just love to join the queue or the line. And, we're very polite. We're almost like, oh, I'm about to stab you in the back, but I'm sorry. Whereas, this is not what it's about. Like, if you genuinely are put on a desert island and you have no food and you have to survive, the last thing you're going to do is say, oh, do you mind if I eat your leg? You're just like, I need to eat. You're either going to eat me or I'm going to eat you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't pull it out of Final Tribal Council, and Lee comes for you very hard. I think, for what it's worth, Chris, you will be remembered among Survivor fans as a fantastic, entertaining character and a great player. Lee will be remembered very differently, and I think you should be proud of that.
Thank you so much. No, I completely agree with you, and I thank you so much for saying that, because it wasn't just Lee that said things about me and my game at Final Tribal. I'll tell you the truth. When we got to the final that morning, I think it was, we had this breakfast basket delivered, and it was full of bacon, egg, sausage. And by this point, I don't know what it was. I think having stood on that platform for 5 and however many minutes, 5 hours, having mentally been drained, by this point, I'm done. honestly, I am done. And so we had that breakfast, and I was really sick. Like, it felt like my body was shutting down on me. I had excruciating pains in my stomach. I was really fatigued. I had diarrhea. I had the sweats, and I said, I can't do this. I'm gonna have to go to hospital or something, or see a doctor. But obviously, they needed to film the final. Like, I can't not be there. So throughout the day, I was just sat in the sand, like on my own, well, with a doctor, and they gave me tablets and stuff, but I couldn't move. I couldn't move. So I just thought, like, is this what death feels like? When we got that final reward, it was full of eggs, bacon, and all of that sort of stuff. And obviously, when you starve, when you get the reward, you then binge. And I think I just did it too much, and so I think my body had didn't take to it very well in the end, because obviously I'd had the curry, the pizza reward, the spa, and then the breakfast. So the way I think I'd starved and then binged and then starved and then binged, I think I probably was one of the only people that had that opportunity. Whereas someone like, well, naming no names, but some people didn't get to win any challenges. Do you know what I mean? And so,
Yeah, right.
Going back to what I was saying, when it came to the final, I just felt absolutely done. I was like, can we just get on with this now? Because I kind of knew that I wasn't going to win, but then there was always also a part of me that was like, well, actually, you've done all right to win, so it's up to these guys. But also, in my heart of hearts, I winning was never really the forefront. It was always about, I always just wanted to get to the final. That was always my thing, you know, and I did it. And so when we were at that final tribal, the things that people said to me was just out of this world. It was just so over the top. I was called so many names. You'd swear that I'd actually murdered someone. It was so like, what? One of them had said something like, "You're such a narcissist. You are absolutely inhumane. You have no emotion. You have no heart. You're a soulless human being. How do you have any remorse how you played this game?" And I sat back and I was like, what? Are you joking? I was like, it's a fucking game. I kept having to say, it's a game. I was like, I wanted to say, stop all this. Why have you cast a bunch of people that have no clue what this is about? I don't get it. And they're taking it out on me. Like, but it's not the fact that they didn't want me to win. It was what I was like, the way they dealt with it. They were like, you are evil. I was like, what? So I took an absolute battering from certain people, and then I just sat there. And if you watch it back, you'll see me trying to say, I have a heart, I am a human being, and game. But they cut so much out. You don't see them saying that I'm this evil monster. But yeah, it wasn't pleasant. I wasn't feeling too good. And by this point, I was just like, I just want to get out of here, man. Fuck this.
Yeah, it's tough to go through that and have people just like batter you with like personal attacks and like over a game. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was intense. It was really intense, and it took me a while to kind of digest that. I had to think, because you get like psychotherapy and stuff after the show, and while it is, and I kept saying, like, I'm not a bad person. Like, it's a game, and I kept having to remind myself that, like, I haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
If you don't like me, that's fine. I can deal with that. But to call me heartless and gutless, you know, that's a bit extreme. I can be ruthless. Don't go on Survivor if you don't want to play the fucking game.
Right.
Exactly, Chris.
Damn straight.
Yep.
Okay, well, I have two final questions. One is, if you could pick 1 to 3 words to describe your Survivor legacy, what would those 1 to 3 words be?
Ooh. Um, ooh. So do you know what the one word that comes to mind? Unstoppable. Because I feel like I got to a point in that game when no one could touch me. And I just felt like, you know what? There was always this thing of Chris is going home tonight. We're going to vote Chris out. And I just looked at them and I thought, you know what? You don't know who you're talking to. Because yeah, I swear, like, it was like if I wanted to vote someone out, I'd probably say, oh, I'll vote out so and so. But then I wouldn't be so smug about it if I felt like it wasn't going to happen. But they were so cocksure about it, and that's what made it even more cringe. It was like, Chris is going home tonight, and it was like, we'll see about that. So unstoppable and metal. I think the thing about a game like this is that you can go in it and you can get to the end, you can enjoy it, you can take everything you want from it. But to be remembered, I think that's far more important than winning. So unstoppable and memorable.
Agreed.
Perfect. And you definitely are.
Mhm.
All right. And then now is my favorite
Thank you.
question now this is my favorite question to ask survivors. You kind of touched about it by you saying you having nightmares of the lobster trap. But my question is, when you close your eyes and think back to your time on Survivor, what do you see?
So when I went, and I still do this, like it's so surreal. We filmed it a year ago, and I still go to bed and I still have those images. And one of the really clear images I have is where we slept on the bamboo. We had this weird like tarpaulin thing, which was like covering us because Lenena won the first challenge and we had all the perks. We had like the pineapple, the fruit, and we had the tarpaulin, which was a lifesaver. I always have this image of the tarpaulin, and then you see a bit of the sky, and I think Doug said it as well. You do see the sky, and it's absolutely breathtaking. And it's that image that I feel like is absolutely it's just so immense, and I still think about that today. I can take myself back there mentally and I see it. And then the other little image I have is where we slept. If you think I'm laying on my back with this horrible bamboo in your spine, if you just turn on your side and look the other way, you see the fire. And obviously at night we would try and put big logs on the fire so that it burned throughout the night, but it would always burn down. And so if you needed the toilet or if you was going for a pee, you'd throw a log on. I always have an image of the fire just burning down and it's just smoke. And I can see that as well. So yeah, those are my images. Yeah.
Amazing. Those are lovely images to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my last question for you, Christopher, is if people want to find you on social media, where can they follow you at?
They can follow me on everything: YouTube, Twitter, X, Instagram, but it's Christopher Hall. Just type Christopher Hall into YouTube, Instagram, Google. It's all there. I've got a website. I've got my own clothing brand, and I guess, yeah, like you spell Hall, Haul, like in the US, you've got U-Haul. I'm Christopher Hall.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Christopher. This has been great to get insight into your game. And I believe you're the first, second person to make a final tribal council that has been on the podcast. So it's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
dude. Guys, I just want to say thank you so much. And I did watch Doug's interview yesterday, or you did it before, but I watched it like when you launched it, right?
Yeah.
And Mike, you said that you auditioned, right?
Yeah. I was on. I got pretty far in the auditions, and I was so sure I was going to be on the cast, and I so wish I was because I feel like we would have been so good together playing the game. I feel like we'd have synced up.
Dude, 1,000,000%. Like everyone seems to think that I'm sneaky and like my gameplay, but it's all to do with the edit. I'm actually not that bad. I think what it is like the edit makes me look like I think the edit compliments me, if I'm honest. I'm actually nowhere near as good as a player as I was made to be. Hence why, like I explained to you, when Ren was being voted off, I didn't want Ren to go. When Rachel went, I didn't want her to go. When Ashley got voted off, I lost. So if you can see, I had lost all of the people that I got on with very early on. So by the end, I didn't have anyone.
Yeah.
So knowing what I know now would be completely different, and I think I'd like use that more, like the Australians do. You know, they don't take any prisoners, but yeah, I think based on the fact that you're a northerner, I'm like from South Wales, and I just like your like vibe and your look. And obviously, we've already said from the beginning, like I get on with the geeks so well, the nerds. Do you know what I mean? So
There we go. It all
Yeah,
comes
we
full
totally
circle.
we would smash it, man. But I'm gutted that you didn't make the cut.
Same.
I guess the BBC have a certain criteria, I guess, and a certain like specific type they're looking for. I don't know, but
Yeah, I think they needed
I
more
guess that-
super fans on there. It would have been good.
yeah,
Maybe
Well,
next time.
they had
Fingers crossed.
but that's the thing. They had a few super fans. They had Shy, Ren,
Yeah.
Doug is a super fan. But
Mhm.
I think the problem is as soon as people were exposed as a super fan, the people that just thought they were on holidays on the beach TV show, they would then home in on the super fans and be like, get them out. What are they doing? How can they be a fan of this show? Like, get them out. And it's like, but you've just applied for something you know nothing about. It doesn't make sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, thank you again,
So it's
Christopher.
changed. Yeah, guys, I could talk to you all night. I mean, it's getting late here. I don't know what time
Yeah.
it is in America, but honestly, thank you guys so much, and I look forward to keeping in touch. And
Absolutely.
hopefully the UK will keep it going. I don't know what's going on with the
Fingers
BBC,
crossed. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I do know that Australia versus the world is happening.
Yeah.
So hopefully that does really well, and if they do another one of it, because you never know. I don't know. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we can
Yeah.
definitely stay in touch. And with that, we'll see you all next time on the Tribe
Awesome.
of Nerds.
See you guys.